It took me 3 years to finally fish up and catch the opportunity to watch how katsuo no tataki is made, but it was well worth the wait. On a Thursday afternoon, I rode my bike down to the Kuroshio Ichiban-kan and joined the gathering crowd of parents, teachers, and katsuo aficionados. Local students arrived, chatting and laughing with nervous energy, their hair tied with cool blue bandanas. They would be the ones gutting and filleting the fish, and they had been practicing for a few months to get it right. First, the freshly caught katsuo were taken out of a freezer and placed on the chopping block. I heard they had just been fished that very same day. I was surprised how big the katsuo were, and the kids wasted no time cutting into them. The smell of fish guts wasn't great, and some of the fish were a little bloody, but the students were surprisingly stoic and undeterred by the gore. They expertly dismantled their respective fish, sometimes with a helping hand from the katsuo meister. After removing the guts and the head, the students worked to cut the fish into fillets. It was satisfying as they ran the fillet knife down the ribs of the fish and cut off good-looking slices. After trimming their fillets, they seared them over a straw fire. Straw burns fast but extremely hot, so it quickly sears the outside of the fish and delivers a smoky campfire-cooked taste. After searing, they cut the fish into handsome slices and arranged the meat neatly on a plate. With a scattering of sea salt and green onions on top, the dish is ready to serve. Bonito tastes very meaty, like a steak, and not at all fishy or like the sea. It's great with pungent toppings like ginger, onion, soy sauce, wasabi, and shiso. My favorite way to enjoy katsuo is with salt, green onion, and soy sauce. I can't eat too much of it or I do feel ill, but it's about as authentic as food gets in Japan. I'm glad I finally got the full fish experience. Woof, I've taken some hard knocks this last month. While I usually come out on top in the challenges and responsibilities I undertake, even with preparation, there is always the chance of rejection, failure, and just plain bad luck. Being bold by my definition doesn't mean being loud, reckless, and attention-seeking, but it does mean taking chances, putting yourself out there, trying something new, to take on a challenge and do everything possible to succeed. But the thing is, if you continuously take on bigger and bigger challenges, eventually you will fail. And sometimes challenges you conquered long ago and thought were easy might catch you by surprise. The first weekend in October, I failed to organize a simple community event, a barbecue. Barbecues are not as simple to organize legally in Japan as you might think, as they are illegal except within certain areas, such as campgrounds or your own personal outdoor property. I found this out after I had my supervisor call a beach campground, and they said I couldn't host a barbecue on the beach itself. However, the campground said that they allowed barbecue, and since they were located right next to the beach, I thought, great, it's a seamless alternative. I had a friend call the campground and reserve 2 spots in preparation. The day of the barbecue was forecasted for rain, but it was a low chance, so I decided to go ahead with the event. I purchased supplies, drove down to the campground to talk to the camp attendant, and began setting everything up. To my utter despair, the camp attendant told me campers were not allowed to barbecue after 1 p.m. I thought I misheard him, so I asked for clarification. Somehow, between checking the campground website and phoning the campground 2 separate times, one time asking about barbecue, this crucial rule hadn't been mentioned. I told my group about the situation and offered some alternatives, but between the weather and the lack of barbecue, they voted to cancel and postpone. Event failed. What was my reaction? I took responsibility for the situation, said it was my fault, because it was, and explained to the group in the future I would explicitly check barbecue rules. Then on the following Monday, I offered up 2 more events for the group to do in the future. Their reaction wasn't enthusiastic, which is understandable. It's hard not to feel disappointed, angry, and embarrassed by things like this. To have your plans torn apart by an obscure and contrived rule, it's important to remember I have run plenty of successful events in the past. Events that never would have happened if I hadn't have stepped up and risked failure. So, Moral of the story, for those of you planning a barbecue in Japan, don't forget to ask about the rules, or it's your dreams that are gonna get cooked. The barbecue may have defeated me, but I crushed the Ryoma Dappon Marathon in Yasuhara. It was scary. I bonked on a practice half marathon the week before because of improper hydration and nutrition, meaning my muscles grew so tired I ran out of energy and couldn't finish the run. So I was a little worried I wouldn't do well for the real race. Turns out my anxiety and proper preparation led me to success, as I ate plenty of carbohydrates and hydrated, and I killed it running a sub 2 hour half marathon without bonking. In fact, I finished with plenty of energy to spare. To put that in perspective, the last competitive half marathon I did, I ran it in about 2.5 hours, so within a 4-month period I have shaved off 30 minutes from my time. Around this same time last year, my half marathon time was 3 hours, so it's a little insane for me to have improved so much, but I'm proud. It's the result of my consistent, daily hard training. Late September, I made the trek down to Tokushima to play touch rugby with Kagawa and Tokushima Jets in the 2024 Kansai Masters Tournament. It was a rough weekend for me. I didn't catch a great sleep in the hotel the night before, so I powered up that morning on Lawson coffee and boiled egg sandwiches, and I showed up ready to throw down. The Jets were kind enough to teach me how to play. I remember playing flag rugby back in high school, but touch rugby has different rules entirely. The punishment for getting tackled or tagged in touch rugby is simply setting the ball down and having someone else on your team immediately pick it up. It's more of a punishment for the team on defense because after every tackle, they must run back 7 meters and then run forward again to re-tackle the ball holder. This means the team on offense can get around 28 meters for free just by playing the get tackled, pick up, run forward, repeat game. Anyway, due to an unfortunate translation mistake, we ended up playing against semi-professional rugby teams and getting wiped. But I did my best to enjoy the experience, learn the rules, and hang out with Jets from different regions. It's not whether you win or lose, it's how you play the game. For the first time in over half a decade, Kuroshio Town got to host New Zealand homestay students. It's always fascinating for me to see Japan newbies, and I took great pride in watching my Japanese students interact with New Zealand students and practice their English. Of course, communication wasn't easy, and the Japanese students' command is rudimentary, but the friendly and outgoing students were able to forge good connections. For the most part, I think it was awkward for both parties. And, I have it lucky as I say so many stupid things every day. I'm pretty much bulletproof when it comes to embarrassment and using Japanese or trying to get my point across in English. Also, after living here, I've picked up basic Japanese words and phrases, so I can use them to help facilitate understanding and make things just a little bit less awkward. But since the New Zealanders know no Japanese and are unaware of the English words and phrases Japanese students are accustomed to, if there was a miscommunication, both groups just had to sit there with the uncomfortable feeling of being misunderstood or move on with the conversation. I think it's a powerful experience, especially since most people live in a world that always understands them. Interestingly, this caused both sets of students to use a lot of gestures when talking to one another to help get the point across and avoid this uncomfortable feeling. I hope more programs like this are implemented across Japan, as it gives Japanese students a powerful, tangible reason to study English. I noticed that the Japanese students who went to New Zealand for their homestay program, their English improved, even if they weren't very dutiful students to start with. Their communication and speaking ability was heightened by the experience. So That's all for now. Take care and be bold.